Airbnb was a groundbreaking, industry-disrupting Silicon Valley solution to the hotel industry. And in some ways, you could say that they have succeeded. They are now worth more than Marriott, which is the world's largest hotel chain, and they have over 8 million listings globally. But at the same time, people have fallen out of love with the Airbnb experience. Cities are fighting back against these rentals, and in Canada, Airbnb rates are 47% higher than they were in 2017, while hotel prices haven't gone down at all. And the irony here is that the Airbnb concept was founded on the idea that with this app, people would be able to share their homes with guests from around the world, and it would be a unique lived experience that you couldn't get the hotel. But as you probably already know, the wholesome bed and breakfast part of Airbnb was short-lived, and slowly we have watched Airbnb become the evil that they sought to defeat. Now there are entire developments built around this Airbnb business model. Infamous stories of terrible guest experiences, absurd cleaning fees, even though you still have to clean up after yourself, and with completely contactless entry that makes it feel like a hotel but without the hospitality. Airbnb is probably one of the most famous tech startups of all time, and so they have fully run the course of the typical tech innovation gone bad, and their in-shitification story shows the full spectrum of how things can go from bad to worse. This is the story of the in-shitification of Airbnb. A huge shout out to Patreon for making this video possible. So I've stayed in a lot of Airbnbs, and I genuinely believe that the original idea behind this company was game-changing, and it could have been a really positive thing overall. And let me be clear that there are still great listings on Airbnb that can offer this to you, and in a lot of cases, Airbnb offers a selection that hotels just simply can't compete with. Now, in the early days of this channel, if you were around then, you might have noticed that we shot an entire year of videos in Airbnbs across the United States and Mexico, and we truly wouldn't have been able to produce all the videos that we did in typical hotels. So Airbnbs was like kind of the only way we could do it. This was back in 2022 and 2023, and while the transformation of Airbnb from cozy mom and pop shop experience to corporate side hustle had fully happened already, it's actually somehow gotten worse since then. Because beyond the experience of staying in an Airbnb, which we're gonna be getting into later in the video, this is a unique story because Airbnb represents something very polarizing right now, which is the housing crisis. Because while this technology was designed to disrupt the hotel industry, the biggest impacts were not felt by Marriott and Hilton shareholders, but by the communities where Airbnbs became popular. There have been whole campaigns that promise to fight Airbnbs. They've come to represent the wealth gap that continues to widen around the world, and there is legislation specifically targeting these properties all over the place to manage the impact that they have on the communities that they're in. This has soured their public image, but it has also constrained their ability to grow and expand in the ways that tech companies and their shareholders often demand.
The New York City mayoral election happened recently. In 2023, they banned short-term rentals. So if you're going to do an Airbnb, you have to do it for over 30 days. As a result, Airbnb, through their PAC Affordable New York, spent $10 million fucking dollars on this election. Like, just running attack ads and shit.
To try and get their shit back online.
And that's kind of like a small amount of money to open up all of the short-term rentals in New York again. So them and DoorDash were just having a heyday, like trying to...
That's why DoorDash was so involved as well.
I think there's like pushback against these apps, but now it's kind of a problem that's a little too late to deal with because they have all this money.
Because they can fight. Like now Airbnb is not just like some startup trying to like find their way into a market. They're like, no, we have millions of dollars of lobbying power and a proven service that millions of people have used around the world. Like they have control now. But for just 1 second, forget about all that. Let's take a nostalgic trip back to the Airbnb reality that we didn't get, how it could have been. Cast your mind back to 2008 when this company first made its public debut. Because I don't know if a lot of you know this, but it was originally hosted on airbedandbreakfast.com. And I don't know if the youths today even know, but this B&B part of Airbnb comes from the original bed and breakfast idea, where people would just rent out a room in their home to travelers, and in the morning the host would provide them with a breakfast. Oftentimes these were kind of cutesy little cottages or something. It wasn't a booming business, but it was a really cute option for people who didn't want to stay in a hotel. I've stayed in a lot of traditional bed and breakfasts because when I was a kid, that's how my parents liked to travel. And in many cases, you were just like in their house, and it wasn't super polished or formal like Airbnbs often are today. I remember we went to one, and it was like in the southern US or something, and I vividly remember a George Bush shrine that they built in their house. And I was like, Mom, Dad, like they have a shrine to George Bush. And this was like at the height of his controversial, time in office, and I was a particularly politically involved kid. And my parents were like, shut up, don't say anything. You open your mouth way too often in this country. But this was a representation of what they valued, right? The house itself was their own personal expression. It wasn't curated to be as neutral as possible, or it wasn't thematically decorated to fetch a higher price or whatever. The house was honest, and as a guest, you got to see into their lives. This is what hosting really is. It's not presenting something that you think people want to see or what you think will make the most money, but you're bringing people into your life. They gave us suggestions, they asked us about our lives in Canada, and we learned about them too, and their obsession with George Bush. And this was the original promise of Airbnb, right? It was that human connection. It was supposed to be a peek into the lives of other people in the place that you were visiting. Look at basically any Airbnb ad today, and they're still promoting that idea. Like, that's still what they think they are as a company for some reason.
Crespin made sushi for us that first night.
Of course, Tim wouldn't eat it. He's way too picky.
Oh, come on, I had a little bit
you
of it.
didn't. We forced you.
Okay.
But this is a lie, sadly, nowadays for the most part, because while the app made finding a room a lot easier, it totally changed the hosting element of the B&B experience. Matthew has moved recently, and he had to deal with a couple of Airbnbs before he found a place, and like, it is such a nightmare. You forget how bad it is when you haven't been in one for a while, and sometimes it is just horrible. There is like a phrase that people say when people like renovate something now and they make it all like millennial gray. They're like, oh man, it just looked like a fucking Airbnb.
I will say, while I was moving, I stayed in a couple Airbnbs. We tried to get in one place that was not millennial gray. It was really bad, and it was infested with ants. I eventually reported that Airbnb, and I got my money back, and we got into a hotel, which is what you do now. The guy, no joke, he like messaged me. He was like, I think it's best if we like don't rate each other. Like, this was
God,
and then the closing message he sent to me was, I agreed to provide you full refund, which he didn't. I had to go through customer support because he didn't want to give it to me. Due to what happened so far, I suggest we do not leave review to each other at this time. But if you have chance to stay my other nicer property in future, I will be sure to give you best review. Thanks again and have a good day. It was just dicey. It was terrible.
Having worked in a hotel, and my wife also worked in a hotel, it's an extremely complicated and very challenging business to do well. Like, the turnover of people that come in and out of a hotel is nuts. The amount of waste that people create when they stay in a hotel is crazy. You're the worst version of yourself in a hotel room. You have to be so fucking on it to keep the place clean and looking half decent. And the Airbnb hosts just aren't that good at it. So Leah and I stayed in this Airstream B&B in this couple's backyard when we visited Atlanta a couple of years ago. And I think it captures exactly what goes wrong with Airbnb. It was a contactless entry, so we never met our host. There was no personal connection there. The Airstream was clearly purchased to be converted into an Airbnb because while it looked okay on camera, in person it was dingy and slapped together, and it lacked some basic sanitary standards.
You're gonna take him out?
Ow. This is an example of an Airbnb that was built and hosted, not by somebody who thought that they would be a good host for visitors to their city, but as a person who wanted to make some money off of their backyard. And while that's not inherently bad, the app's success has sort of eroded the charm and personality that the service was supposedly going to offer in the first place. See, when Airbnb first launched, it wasn't already established bed and breakfast hosts who joined the platform. It was people who saw a financial opportunity in an up-and-coming app. The vast majority of people who have started or operate an Airbnb today are doing it as a side hustle, as a passive income opportunity, or in some cases, they're running it as like an entire corporation with multiple units being run and managed for the highest possible return. And so all of a sudden, it's a marketplace full of business people optimizing their listings to attract more bookings and doing everything they can possibly do to make as much money as possible. And because this is an app on the internet, it has bred this entire category of listings that suit that reality. There's a whole section of YouTube that is just showing these crazy Airbnbs that exist now. Half of Ryan Trahan's thumbnails are him in front of some wild Airbnb of some sort.
It's always like him trying to find the craziest Airbnb he could possibly stand in front of.
He gets tons of views on those.
And that's also like, do you not think that Airbnb is benefiting from that? Obviously they are. And they're kind of like changing their platform to be not just the place where you can go stay at somebody's house and like sleep on in their guest room. It's changing into like its own special thing. Like the Airbnb is its own thing now. It's not just a short-term rental.
It's obviously becoming like a commodified thing that ranks within algorithms, right? Like the person who designed the survival bunker Airbnb didn't design it to look that way because that's the most functional bunker design. They were like,
yeah,
this is gonna look good in the photos.
Do you remember when the Barbie movie came out and then Airbnb just so happened to like allow you to stay at the Barbie dream house? I mean, I think there's also like a Hobbit house that you can stay in, which is also movie related. The Hobbit cottage Airbnb isn't directly related to the Lord of the Rings, but
it is in New
got the
Zealand,
font.
I assume?
No, it's in Utah.
Oh, okay. Well,
The yellow submarine one is wild because it's like, did this person buy a submarine with the intention of turning it into an Airbnb?
I'd like to believe that a lot of these people have bought these things and then they didn't know what to do with them, and then they're like, fuck it, Airbnb it. Like,
I would love to be in the position where I accidentally have property and a submarine. Oh, the yellow submarine is in New Zealand, but the Hobbit one is in Utah? Those should be like flipped.
people used to build crazy houses for themselves because they were actual eccentric people who like to live alternative lifestyles. But now people build potatoes for Airbnb.
I actually think my favorite one is the potato so far.
The interior is actually like pretty aesthetic.
No,
like
it's not bad. And once again, I want to reiterate here that there are people who do it well, for the love of it, with heart and intention, and a lot of those unique stays are probably going to be some of the cooler and better options out there because clearly if you made a giant potato Airbnb, you care a little bit more about it than a generic apartment that you've decided to rent out or whatever. But the majority of the listings are not yellow submarines. They are assets being managed by a business. If you go on YouTube as an aspiring Airbnb owner, you will find tons of resources. There are tutorials on how to optimize your venture from a cash flow perspective, stories about people who built their own Airbnb resorts to make millions, and this just blows me away. Apparently, Airbnb hosts are now using dynamic pricing, just like ride shares, to increase their prices around events or, particularly busy months to make the most money that they possibly can. This is the thing that the hotel industry has been using forever, but now the whole Airbnb industry is doing it. It's fucking amazing. And you can learn how to bake your cleaning fees into your nightly rate so that people don't get annoyed with those extra charges. I love how this guy just fully admits that he's stealing this idea from the hotel industry. For these people, it is not about being a host. It is all about running the business to make as much money as you possibly can. There's this great post on the Airbnb subreddit where this guy's like, man, I'm just getting tired of these Airbnb ads. Like, they keep releasing ads where like these hosts are going like above and beyond, like helping out these guests who are like having these unique experiences. I can't express my frustration about how dangerous this is to give the idea to guests that all hosts do this routinely. And this is a perfect representation of the divide that's going on. Like, Airbnb is still trying to promote this over-the-top, unique stay experience that you might get on Airbnb. And all the hosts who make the platform possible are like, shut the fuck up. Like, dude, we're just trying to make money off of our garages that we've converted into a suite. Like, we don't want to like cook them dinner. Like, we actually don't care about the breakfast part of B&B. We're just a bed. Fucking figure it out. And this is the saddest part, is that the pendulum swing that we've seen as a result here is that in some ways, Airbnbs are actually less personal than hotels ever were. Check-in is contactless, it's done through the app. There's no common area or services on site where people can mingle. And in many cases, the connection that you have to the host is not actually the host, it's just a manager who's been paid to oversee the business. But Airbnb does know that this authentic experience that they base their business on, that has been stripped entirely from the experience for most people using the platform, is important. And so they've turned this negative for the consumer into a positive for the business. You can now book authentic experiences alongside your stay through the Airbnb platform. But you know who was previously the one who would help book you a massage or a yoga class while you were staying in a new place? It was the fucking hotel that you were staying at. But hey, really quick, did you know that this channel is a 1% for the planet member? If you don't know what that is, basically it means that we donate 1% of our total revenue for the year to an environmental or social organization that we believe in. Every year we post a poll on our Patreon page or our community tab to give y'all the chance to dictate where that money goes. And so based on whatever percentage the poll receives, we donate the equivalent amount of money to that organization. So your vote really does matter. If you're already a member, this is sort of like your reminder to go and check that out. And if you're not, maybe consider joining. Patreon is the best way to directly help this channel because on top of the 1% annual donation, every single dollar that this channel earns is divided equally between myself, Matthew, and Lou. There's a private Discord community where we let off steam about the absurdity of our consumerist world and share hacks on how to avoid it. And it's just a really good time. So thank you for considering it, and now let's get right back into the video. But listen, all of this is bad, right? But what I think Airbnb did that is way more dramatic than disrupting the hotel industry is that they became a symbol for the housing crisis that we are feeling around the world. Yes, of course, there are a lot of factors that play into this. It's not just short-term rentals that make the biggest impact, but they represent an extreme that wasn't there before. Because Airbnb is effectively a wealth multiplier for a bunch of people who already had enough money in the first place. And the way that it came into the world just feels too coincidental. You might not know the exact date the Airbnb launched, but it was August 11th, 2008, within a month of the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy and basically the peak of the 2008 financial crisis. This was one of the biggest wealth transfers in US history. A ton of people lost their homes, and a lot of people bought those homes for significantly less money. And then at the same time, an app emerges that allows all of these homeowners, these people who have all of these additional properties, to earn 2 or 3 times the amount of money that they could have rented it to a long-term renter. Like the timing of that is crazy. And the double or like triple irony, I don't even know where we're at right now, but like the irony here too is that the story of Airbnb is about a couple of guys who couldn't afford rent in San Francisco, and so they had to rent out an air mattress on their floor to make rent. Now, is that story real? I mean, come on, this is a Silicon Valley startup. You know, everybody started their business in their garage or basement, you know, to go on to become a millionaire. And don't think that I'm saying that everyone who has an Airbnb is just a terrible person, because the truth is, the system is just so messed up that in order to afford a house in any capacity, a lot of people just need to put an Airbnb into their equation to make those mortgage payments. And so, yeah, like I'm saying, you know, oh, it's a platform filled with people who don't actually give a shit about the art of hosting, but it's because people have been forced into this situation. Yeah, you may not care about your guest's experience because you didn't want to have someone in your house in the first place. You didn't want to have to rent out your garage. So there's a couple of really awesome options out there that aren't Airbnb that I think capture a lot of the spirit that it was supposed to have in the first place. One of them is Warm Showers. It is specifically a platform that helps connect traveling cyclists with other willing hosts. And it's cool because it's really specific around a community of people who like biking and like being outside. So you know right off the bat that the person who's coming into your home is going to be the kind of person who you'd probably get along with already, you know? Couch surfing is another great option. It's more broad. It's kind of for anyone, I believe. And it's not based on money. You're not supposed to be making money through couch surfing. You're supposed to be gaining the experience of meeting somebody new who comes into your home, and they are getting a place to stay. And what I love about a non-moneyed exchange like this is that you get to meet people where they're at, and you get to offer something in return that may be of better value. Like maybe you show up and you're like, hey, you know what? Like your kid's sleeping downstairs. Why don't you guys go out and do grocery shopping? And well, it's kind of weird. I don't know if you let some random stranger watch your kid. That's maybe a bit specific. But with both of these apps, you're getting to meet somebody. You're really getting to have that honest human connection with another person. And you know what? In some cases, maybe you meet them and you're like, wow, I don't actually want to spend any more time with that person. And that's okay. You know what? Sometimes that's what it's about. You gotta risk this social interaction to get the social interaction, if you know what I mean. Everybody wants a village, but nobody wants to be a villager. And I think Airbnb is like the exact opposite. The tech world seems to do this with everything that it touches. It takes a good idea, something that's grounded in something real, and it turns it into a capitalistic, money-making machine that prioritizes convenience and income over everything. So next time you want to go traveling, consider those options. And if you want to be a host in your own life, just invite people to your house. Like, you know, I'm shooting this in my spare room. I had the mattress pulled out just before I filmed this. You can do this on your own. But if you liked today's video, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more of them, we upload every single week somehow. So we'll see you around for another upload very soon. Okay, bye-bye.